Alright, I've got two things to say about Inscryption. I want to talk about its kinesthesia and how it connects with its tone, and I want to talk about its mechanics as a game. Let's talk about the kinesthesia of Inscryption. Inscryption is a roguelite card game in first-person perspective. I'm recording, right? Yeah. Lol, what did I knock over? In Inscryption, not all information is available at the same time. What I mean by that is not every game object is in the player's view at the same time. The player needs to crane their head by pressing WASD or scrolling the mouse to turn the player's head between binary states. It's not a first-person, like mouse and keyboard kind of deal. The perspective shifts are quite fast and jerky, but once the camera hits its destination, it stays there completely still. When a player is learning how to play Inscryption, they'll likely jump between looking at their hand, looking at the board, looking at the far side of the board, and looking at the scoreboard quite often. This is evocative of a person who is anxious and under stress, which is perfectly fitting for the game's story, in which a player is in an unknown location at the mercy of a crazy man. The way that you interface with Inscryption complements the tone of Inscryption, and that's pretty poggers. When you think of a card game, you probably think of like Hearthstone, in which cards will just flash on screen, like sparkle with a bunch of fantasy sound effects. Maybe a voice clip will play or something. I've never played Hearthstone. But in Inscryption, cards make very tactile, grounded sound effects. When a card initiates an attack, all it does is float upward a little bit and nudge forward, and it makes this very bassy sound like two pieces of wood hitting against each other or something. That's probably not what the sound effect is. Something like that. Even though fantastical things happen in Inscryption, its sound effects are grounded. Just good. Just good job. You did it. Fucking congrats. The second thing I'd like to praise Inscryption about is its simple mechanics. In Inscryption, players are constantly making meaningful decisions in the short term and the long term. When players just start to learn how to play the game, they'll likely take a very long time to take even a single turn because they have to manually figure out what's going to happen on this space, what would happen if I play this card, what does this card do? I have to refer to that in the rulebook, the physical rulebook that's in the game, going back to the kinesthesia thing. But as players quickly get a grasp of the basic mechanics of combat, they'll start to plan a turn or two ahead. They might make the decision to not play any cards for one turn, take some damage so that they can make a big play on the next turn. And as the player continues to learn how the game works even further, they'll start to plan spaces ahead. They'll start to plan based on what events will take place 2 events from now in order to build their deck to victory. The way that Inscryption's card game works is not balanced. It's quite broken. However, there are lots of different ways to break Inscryption and to give yourself an incredible, awe-inspiring advantage. That means even in the endgame, when the player understands how all of the mechanics work, decision-making still is not linear. There's always a new way to gain an advantage. As long as you don't look stuff up, every player will likely develop their own playstyle, their own preferred method of gaining an advantage. For example, I prefer low-cost cards, renewable cards, and search cards to try to keep a very small focused deck to get my win condition out and keep it there. However, some people might like to spend a lot of time making like one card, just one card, like extremely powerful, and just getting that Ouroboros strat. Some people might just want to overwhelm their opponent with just a lot of cards in a big deck. People say Kingfisher sucks, but oh my god, I have done the things you don't even know. You've not, unless you follow my Twitter, you've fucking seen what I fucking do with Kingfisher. Let me fucking tell you. Okay, only the people who have played Inscryption are gonna fucking appreciate this. Listen to this. Okay, Kraken deck, 2 Kingfishers. They each got different sigils, and then I mycologisted them together. So by the halfway point of the game, I had a 3/6 many lives Kingfisher with the apple ability that passes on its stats to other cards. Fucking incredible. Just incredible. The other day I had like a bullfrog core deck because I just tried to get rid of the bullfrog, but I couldn't. And if you fail to get rid of a card, it is stronger now. So now it's just the linchpin of your deck. Shit, I'm getting a little off topic. Inscryption. Really fucking cool. Really cool, really cerebral game. Game on, gamer. Shake his hand. Even though Inscryption is dark and thrilling and suspenseful, it like knows how to have fun. It has like comedy, both in its interactions and in some of its animations and scenes. Two more stray thoughts before I go. One run of Inscryption can last anywhere from 10 to 50 minutes, depending on if you're good at getting to the end of it. And I personally think that 1 to 2 hours is the perfect length for a replayable game to be. 1 hour is short enough that you can play one session from beginning to end at any time, conclude the story, close the book, just put it down and move on with your day. But it's long enough that it can have a 3-act structure and a sense of progression. Freedom Planet's about 2 hours, 1.5 hours. Freedom Planet's the best game. It's the best game. Earlier I stated that there are a lot of ways to gain an incredible unfair advantage in Inscryption. However, I don't think that Inscryption is the easiest game on the block either due to challenges or a rough board or a bad turn of luck. Getting to the end of Inscryption is not consistent. I'd say my win rate's maybe 70%. If I turn on skulls, it goes down to like 50%. And that keeps the suspense on just as much as anything else. However, Inscryption strikes a very good balance between difficulty, between being too easy to win and being overwhelmingly difficult. Something like Risk of Rain just completely fucking overwhelms you by the end if you choose to continue it infinitely. But if you get too easy, then a game becomes thoughtless and unexciting. So it's impressive that Inscryption strikes the balance between being busted and being challenging and interesting. Just damn addicting. Casey's mod.